Well, I have with me in the studio to discuss this and other health-related issues. The President, Association of Resident Doctors, University of Uyo Teaching Hospital, Dr. Anyekbeno Eyo. Welcome to Political Spectrum.
Thank you so much.
He's not here alone. He's with Dr. Promise Jacob, General Secretary, Association of Resident Doctors, University of Uyo Teaching Hospital. Welcome to Political Spectrum.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
So, like we said, we are looking at what the federal government said through the Minister of Labour and Employment yesterday. We got here because sometime in December, Dr. Ganiyat Popola was kidnapped.
Yes.
Sometime in the middle of this month, the doctors, resident doctors, came out to speak with the government. They came out on the public procession and gave advance warning that by so time, if the machination to change or do something with regards to the kidnapping wasn't seen, they would embark on a strike action as a warning.
Exactly.
And, well, it seems as if they didn't get the result that they wanted, and so they embarked on the strike. So my first question would be, what has been the impact of this strike on patients generally?
All right, thank you very much. I must say that doctors under the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors are actually patriotic Nigerians who normally do not like strikes. But it was important at this time that we should call for a 1 week warning strike to governments in solidarity to the fact that our colleague who's been in captivity for over 8 months have yet not been released to be reintegrated to our family and, of course, our colleague. So about 2 weeks ago, the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors, following an extraordinary National Executive Council meeting, mandated all training institutions, residents in all training institutions in the country, both federal, state, and private, to make a peaceful demonstration, a protest in solidarity. The essence of that was to call government attention because we felt that it was taking too long for government to do the needful, allowing her to stay in the kidnappers' den for that length of time. We also had given a 2-week ultimatum that if she's not released or we don't have tangible evidence that government are doing what they should do, of course, to get her out of the kidnappers' den, that we would proceed on a 1 week warning strike, which is what we are currently doing. The statement by the Minister of State or the representative of governments for health is actually, to me, appalling. We are not threatened by that. We are only, and of course, it's unfortunate that he himself is a doctor. I do not know whether his statement would be that way if his wife or his daughter or his sister was kidnapped. The no work, no pay by federal government is just what federal government knows what to do, especially when they are aware that Nigerian workers are totally dependent on their salaries. And that has really affected the way associations engage and negotiate with government, because at each time there's industrial disharmony, government usually want to invoke that so that those striking associations would be forced to call off their strike. But the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors are committed to ensuring that we would stay united and ensure that we force them to do the needful. We are even hoping that if the no work, no pay is what they want to deduct from our salary, if that will be enough for them to pay the ransom of Popola and get her reintegrated back to our family, then we'll be really, really happy. So we are not threatened, we are committed, we are focused, we'll do the needful. The Nigerian populace must understand that we have to do this to help our colleague. 8 months is a long time for somebody to be in captivity. So it's unfortunate that we are here.
Well, you didn't quite answer my first question. I knew that, but then let me move over to him, because I wanted to talk about the patients first before I talk about the state of the doctor who is in captivity. But quickly, what's it been like in University of Uyo Teaching Hospital and other hospitals that we have resident doctors with regards to this strike?
Okay. Unfortunately, we are back to this again. And, you know, people offered essential services. We don't like going on strike. we are committed to our patient. We're also committed to the Nigerian people. But the way it is, we need to be safe first before we deliver service.
Yeah.
Imagine where you're not safe. What kind of services will you deliver?
The psychological impact itself.
Yes. So when you're not safe, we're saying to government that we are ready to come back to work. But let us be safe first in our place of work and also at home. The duty of government is welfare and security. If government cannot guarantee welfare and security, then the government has failed. So the government, then the patient, when we look at the patient, we love our patient. Unfortunately for us that we are embarking on strike, it's that our colleague is in captivity for 8 months.
And she's a nursing mother.
A nursing mother, a mother of 5 children. Her aged parents are still there. Even the patient, and if you look at the last statistics from NMA, they said 1 doctor to about 10,000 people.
Well, we are going to come there. We're going to look at that. But before I come back to you, when resident doctors embark on strike, how does the hospital function? What is put in place to make sure that there's some level of care to patients, particularly those who are in critical conditions?
Okay, in the hospital, we don't have only the resident doctors. We have the resident doctors and also the consultant. So right now, the resident doctors are on strike. So our own members, and there are definitions for our members, those below the rank of consultant and principal medical officers. So everybody below that rank, they are all on strike. So the consultants, they are not part of our members. But we are all in our mother body enemy.
Okay.
But for now, the consultants are there. But note that we have the highest number of doctors in any training institution. So we have the population. So when we're on strike, it also affects the activities of the hospital. But unfortunately, you will not get that full activity when you go to our own center. So it's not there.
Let's get back to Dr. Gariyat. The minister came to say that the government has had, but they should give the government more time to look into her. They even said that they are now certain that she's still alive because there was this issue of proof of life. Do you take the government's latest statement of giving more time something that you should go home with?
I don't think it's something we should go home with. I don't really feel it's the best result that we need now. 8 months. Like you rightly said, this lady was kidnapped in the hospital premises on December 27, 2023. If we had believed the government like the way they want us to believe them now, practically would have had this lady out before the end of last year. But unfortunately, they were only able to, release the husband because she was kidnapped with her husband and a nephew about March of this year. So allowing ourselves to believe on the slow progress of negotiation with governments without this show of protests would be that we do not take the life of our colleague to be one that is useful and impactful. Government's duty, as rightly stated by the Secretary, is to provide us with welfare and security. So if government have failed in those responsibilities, they should bury their head in shame and do the needful. Like I said, none of us is prone or immune to kidnapping. Would this be the same response if a daughter, a wife, or a mother of a member who is of the Federal Executive Council, would they have taken up to 8 months for them to now starting negotiation or even making proof of life? It's unfortunate that we are here.
But we've seen a situation where even members of the Nigerian military were taken by Ahmed, and it took a while to get them back. And then the Inspector General of Police would point out that only recently they responded to the kidnap of the 20 medical students who were heading from University of Maiduguri and just to Enugu for a conference. They responded to it quite quickly.
We applaud them for those ones, of course. At areas that they are doing well, we have to applaud them. And like I said, if the country is secured, we won't be having recurrent kidnapping at routes that are known. That route where those medical students were kidnapped is a known route in Nigeria where a lot of, road users has been kidnapped. So I appreciate and applaud them for their apt response in releasing those medical students. And that's the same thing we are looking at in the case of Ghanaian at Popola. We believe that they should use that same response to get her out of the kidnappers' den.
Dr. Why do we need to get kinetic and combative before government seem to pay attention? How did we get here?
Everybody have their responsibility.
Because you know that the last resident doctors strike, it took a while.
Yes.
And I think the government had to go to court to end it, just kind of, I don't know. So how is it that things that could have been facilitated a whole lot faster takes a while until someone shows some force?
That's the kind of government we have in Nigeria. When people place priority on a certain group of people and leave the other population who probably are not the elite. And because we've seen where politicians, parents, even politicians were kidnapped, and the response time that the government will just use all its machinery to rescue the person. But when it comes to people who don't have a name, they said they want to negotiate. They are working on it. And the question I keep asking, you're working on something for 8 months. If it was your daughter, your wife, your mother, will you take the nonsense you're saying that you're working on it? Have they thought about the psychological trauma the person is going through? A female. What if the female is being raped? Have they talked about her children? For 8 months, the children have not seen their mother. Have they talked about the psychological well-being of the husband that have been missing his wife for 8 months? Have they talked about the psychological well-being of the aged parent?
Or the baby.
And also the baby. That's also missing, that they are missing everybody. But now you're coming with a threat of no work, no pay. And for them to do their work, once there is, the security agency are supposed to come together to work and ensure that they rescue someone. And you say you've been on the matter from 27th of December 2023?
But this seems as if it's the general attitude towards even healthcare delivery or the health system itself. Because when you take a look at the funding, all of the things that doctors have been fighting for, and which has resulted in this jackpot of doctors, the flight of doctors to many countries. In fact, if a colleague of yours, a consultant, my friend of mine, said sometime last year, I'm trying to quote him. I had not seen him in a while, so I was trying to say, where are you? He said, my friend, my brother, if I tell you what's going on, I'm trying to supervise exams. All the higher cadre, trying to remember the quote it, the higher cadre medical personnel have gone. The middle ones have gone too. Some of us are waiting to also join them. In fact, by the time the election is over, I think some people will need to hire the services of native doctors to run the health system. That's what he said. I'm trying to remember what he said. Is this just an issue of security, or this is the general attitude of the players in government towards governance generally? In other words, is this just a health sector thing where it's general?
No, it's a general issue, because when you look at how the Nigerian system and every other sector, it's degrading every day. So you look at it like now, let's stay a little about health. The Nigerian government and also other governments in 2001 made a declaration in Abuja to fund healthcare with about 15% of their annual budget. Since then, since 2001 till date.
Has it crossed 7%?
I don't think so.
So you see,
Highest
then when you
above.
also go to education, they talked about 25%. How far is the education? When you go to other sector too, how far is it? Even the security, are they properly funded? So in all this, we just look at where the priorities of people. Sometimes I wonder whether they know what they are doing or they go there for their selfish interest. Because what everybody should be thinking when you're taking up a public office is that you should deliver quality services that will affect the well-being of the least person, not the upper class. But when you go to the rural setting, how many of the primary health centers are being functional? Not just the building. Most of the primary health centers are just for immunization. Is that the only thing that they're supposed to do? But so the funding aspect of the Nigerian economy itself, it's poor. So our government needs to do more. Instead of buying yachts, buying luxurious vehicles and everything, they need to channel those funds into critical aspects: health, education, security, economy, that will boost everything and make even the common man feel the impact of their regime.
You had raised the issue of the ratio of doctors to patients. And again, looking at the infrastructure, the entire blueprint of the Nigerian health sector, no wonder you see those who can afford it, especially those who are in government, would prefer to go and treat the slightest malaise abroad because the system works. But when you look at, you're talking about the economy now, because that's the issue you raised based on your talk about funding. Gaza is in a conflict situation right now with Israel. But when you see those very gory images, one of the things that I've taken notice that even in the midst of chaos, you still see their ICUs work. You still see, but for the destruction, you would see that they had some basic systems that they could operate with. Could we say we are having a funding challenge, but let's do a roadmap of the next 10, 15 or 20 years? These are the steps we are going to take with regards to a general overhaul of the health sector. And then all stakeholders get involved in trying to chart that course.
They have kept on doing that all the time. They will have to call stakeholders meeting. The problem of the country is actually not, like I always say, it's not policy. Everyone who's lived in the country up to 15 years should be able to identify the problems of the country. And like you stated, in health, it's very easy. We know the issues. The issues is that if you take care of the primary health care, health service delivery, you would have actually catch those who are very prone to being infected, who are prone to not being able to, sponsor their medical care. But unfortunately, we have a country where we don't even have those functional primary health care centers distributed the way it should be. It's ideal that every political ward should have a functional health care center. And just like he stated, it shouldn't just be a place where you go for immunization. You're able to have some standard of care provided for you at that level, of which the place should be suited to take care of some primary conditions with the idea of referral.
But when we don't even have your ratio, 1 to 1,000 something.
The issue about the ratio
or 10,000.
The issue about the ratio is that there are a lot of push and pull factor that will keep depreciating that ratio. If you check that ratio at the end of this year, I can certainly tell you, because there are a lot of persons. When you have reasons like insecurity, poor working conditions, poor job satisfaction, economic crisis like we are in now, you are going to be forced to move to places that you can actually satisfy yourself with job, ensure you're secured. So that has really reduced that statistics of one doctor to about 10,000 patients. If they repeat to do that statistics again,
It will be worse.
It will be worse. Because there are a lot of healthcare workers, including doctors, nurses, pharmacists, radiotherapists, physiotherapists who are leaving the countries in drones. And they are not doing this because they are not patriotic people. They are doing this because you can't be in a place, just like he had mentioned, where you're not safe. I have to be safe first to be able to save humanity. So if I'm not safe, I will not be able to have a job satisfaction to deliver on my job because I will be scared. You know, my security would be threatened if the place I'm working is actually not secure. And that's one of the things we feel if most hospitals and most state and federal government can take the responsibility of beefing up securities in their health centers, it will help, apart from the infrastructures. And then on the other issue, you can imagine that for some of us who are in residency training, you get trained and then you acquire some skills. And then this is also to show you what contributes to that depreciation in the ratio. You get trained, you acquire some skills, and you come back to where you're supposed to deliver on those skills and make use of them. And you don't have infrastructures, medical equipment to actually assist you to have an hands-on experience and extend that your experience and be able to teach other person. And unfortunately in medicine, part of the art is that if you stay away from having an hands-on experience on some of the things you've learned, you will just notice that at a while you will lose those abilities.
And that's you're only talking about those things that you've practiced and had an experience. What about even the opportunity to apply imaging technology and methods of practicing medicine?
We've not been able to sustain primary health care, and then the health insurance. And we're talking about imaging thing. You know, they say common things happen commonly. Let's just try and see if we can even settle the common things that happen around us. If we can even manage the common problems, the common pathology that happen around us, before even talking about those imaging and re-imaging things. We've not even settled those issues. Let's assume we've been able to even settle the primary problems affecting a Nigerian man. Then we would now be forced to talk about the re-imaging techniques and all of that.
So many things to talk about. Oh, I'm almost out of time. Oh my. Quickly. 2020, we thought that 2020 COVID, for me, I like approaching things from multiple spectrums. Someone said that you don't allow a good crisis to go to waste. One of the things you do is that what can I learn from here and how can I better my situation based on what I've experienced? COVID was an opportunity, some of us thought, to fix the health sector. Mpox is here, not as crazy as COVID was, but it seems as if we have not learned any lesson so far. We are still talking about 10,000 vaccines that were donated. What are we doing with regards to Mpox?
No, I can't say that we've not learned our lesson.
Go ahead.
So we've learned our lessons. There are lessons that have been learned during the COVID era. And when we're looking at Mpox is a re-emerging viral zoonotic disease. So, and it's not today, it has been. I think it was first isolated in 1958 in Denmark. And Nigeria had its first case in 1971. And after 1971 cases, there was also another one in 1978. Then before it went low and re-emerged again in 2017. So from 2017 up to date, there've been Mpox in Nigeria. So it's not something that just happened. So there've been Mpox in Nigeria, and they've also been reporting of those Mpox. We have a good surveillance system that have been reporting cases, because now we have one strong surveillance system right from the community down to the national. So once there is a case, it will follow that system of reportage, and they will report that. But now that we're seeing the rise in cases and WHO declaring it a disease of public health concern, of emergency of international concern, so that is why everybody is now beaming light into it.
When I say we seem not to have learned, again, during the 2020 COVID, before we even went into the lockdown, the Nigerian universities were on strike. And I had on here yesterday people from us. We talked about research and development, particularly from the university's angles. And what we saw in 2020 was that majorly our best hands, I would say, seem to be out of the fight. And today, we are still talking about dependence on Western countries to facilitate things like vaccines. Nobody's really talking about how we could improve our ability to create our own vaccines and sustain it. So if the West, for instance, just like they did when COVID, those variants of COVID were coming out, said we are not sending, we now we are at a loss.
Yes, unfortunately, that's the country where we'll find ourselves that don't prioritize research. So, but if we are in a place where research, either medical research, health research, or other scientific research, it's being prioritized, will not go into this problem. Because if you're also looking at the West, also, the country prioritizes research. And now research is not just a thing of only the scientists. Also, the government needs to come in place of funding. Also, bigger corporation needs to come into a place of funding too. Because also there's some other pharmaceutical company, big pharmaceutical company, also sponsor research. But here also other industries too sponsor research, like the Bill Gates Foundation sponsor a whole lot of research. How many foundations, how many corporations in Nigeria that are sponsoring this research? So in research, you need funding for research. So we don't have those. We have so many institutes in Nigeria, both for health research, animal research, this research. But how much? If you look at the funding going to there, most of the funding is just for overhead and personnel. But what about the one for the research itself? It's not there.
We're out of time. Dr. Ayo, 30 seconds. If Dr. Popola is not released after this 7 days warning strike, let's not even talk about whether the government effects their no work, no pay. But what's the NARD's next move?
Okay, thank you very much. Quickly, we have a National Officers Committee, then we have the National Executive Council, then we have the extended National Executive Council. Why I'm bringing this is that it is not just a decision of one or two persons, a group of persons. And the last committee I mentioned includes both presidents and secretary of all the association under NARD. So fortunately, we have a meeting this Friday, and we'll discuss. For some of us who've engaged with our NOC members, who've engaged with the federal government and every critical stakeholders.
Is there possibility of an extended?
We will discuss
strike?
at that, and I can only say the outcome of it after our communique is out.
Well, I've had the honor of hosting the President Association of Resident Doctors, University of Uyo Teaching Hospital, Dr. Anyekpe Noyo, as well as General Secretary Association of Resident Doctors, University of Uyo Teaching Hospital, Dr. Promise Jacob. Thank you for being on Political Spectrum.
Thank you so much.
That's how far we can go today. We continue to keep an eye on how this develops. We'll be sure to bring this and other issues that are affecting everybody in Nigeria, particularly with regards to the politics and government policy. Thank you for being on the program with us today. For me, it's goodbye.